Starting in version 2023.4.3058, IGEMS has added a new bevel icon to their 3D5X area. So for people who are doing simple bevel cuts, countersinks, and such, you may find that the bevel tool is a little bit easier to use than using the full 3D 5X area, which is still of course available here for more complex 5-axis cuts. But for a lot of what people are doing with WaterJet, you may find that this bevel tool does most of what you need. So if we want to work with this, select your part and then click on the bevel icon, and that brings you into the 3D area. If you have worked with the 3D 5X area before, you'll note that there's no toolbar here in the background. You're just basically working in this window here. So you've got your choice of your different bevel types that you can do. You can also do things like, if you get in here and decide that you want this to be of a different thickness, you can actually change the thickness of the model in here. If you add a bevel to something but then realize that that's not what you wanted, you can do reset to bring it back to vertical, or you can click on this vertical bevel here and then click on a surface. So for this part here, let's do a top bevel on the center hole here. So click on this icon. Down at the bottom prompts you select and control for hole contour. So if I want to add a bevel to that entire circle, I can hold down my control key, and when that face is dark gray like that, a left click and puts our bevel geometry on there. Now we haven't put any toolpath on there yet. That'll come up next. We're just putting our geometry on here. And if we want to do a bottom bevel, we can choose that. And if we want to put a bottom bevel, say on this edge here, we can click there. And if we want to do, say, top bevel on this edge here, we can click there, and so on. So once we've got our part geometry the way that we like it, we can add toolpaths. So down here in the bottom, you got this icon here to add toolpaths. And then you can choose different lead-in types. Normal lead will be used on anything that's not a corner, and then you've got the lead type for what's going to be used on anything that is a corner. And just like in the 2D area, you can change these, modify these, add additional types depending on what you want. You can choose whether you want to do tilted piercing or not. If you need additional Z standoff based on the tilt angle. Choices for how the speed is going to be calculated. Speed by thickness, it'll calculate the speed based on the distance from the top curve or top surface of the part all the way down to the table. If you do speed by edge length, then it'll calculate the feed rate based on the difference from, say, on this bevel cut here, from this top edge here to this middle edge here at that 45 degree versus calculating it all the way down to the table. You can choose whether you want to do loops on corners with this checkbox here. And then when you're ready to add toolpath, you can do either A for auto, and you'll just left click where you want to do your pierce point. And the plus will give you more control as far as where you want to start and end and direction of travel. On this center hole here, the auto will work fine. So we'll click on A for auto, select curve. So when that blue curve turns red, I can left click on that to indicate that's what we want to work with. And then it'll prompt you for start point. So left click where we want the lead in to be. And then it will highlight in red the surface that it's going to add the toolpath to. So in this case here, it'll be the vertical cut. So if you did want to change it, if you want to do the bevel first for whatever reason, down here at the bottom you can choose one of these other options, and then it'll highlight in red what it'll do first. You can also click on a surface, so you can just manually click on those surfaces to have it do those first. But in this case, we're actually going to do it as it had it. So got that highlighted red, and click on done. And then for the bevel cut, click again on that blue curve when it turns red, and then left click for your lead-in point, and that is the surface that we want to add that toolpath to. So done again, and we've got our two cuts on there. For the outside, Here we'll want to use the plus command so we can tell it that we want to start down at one end and then come down to the other end. So we'll hit done and we'll do the plus button. Select the curve, again we'll left click on this one. Start point will start down here, so I left click there. End point, come down here, left click. And then direction, we want to cut this way on the part, not that way. So when this is highlighted red, left click, and then it will highlight again in red the surface that it's going to be doing, which is good. So we'll click done there. And similar thing on the other side. Click on the curve, start point, end point, direction, and here we want to do this face here. So again, I can either click on one of these top choices or just click on that face and then done. And then for the vertical outside cuts, once more, click on that curve, left click at our start point, end point, direction, and that red face is the one that we want that added to, so click on done, and we will have our, and then done again, and we've got all of our toolpaths on there. So pretty easy. If you ever want to delete something, you got the delete button there to delete a cut, and click on close. That brings you back out into the 2D area. If you're out here and you decide that you want to change something like a lead-in length or cut sequence, you can use the edit button up here, click on edit, and so if I want to change my lead-in length on cut 1, can click on that, and we can come in here and adjust that, and then you can click on to other cuts and make whatever other changes that you may need. If you want to make changes to the geometry, you realize that this is supposed to be maybe a 60-degree angle. We can select it and then click on the bevel button again. Brings us back in there with that part. And so if I want to change that to whatever angle, click on this again, and again hold down my control key, and that changes that angle. And then it also changes the toolpath automatically. So if we go back into that toolpath area, we'll see that that toolpath has been updated for the new angle on that cut there. And then we can click on close again, and that'll bring us back out. So if you have any questions on that new bevel area, let me know. Thanks.